Welcome back. Welcome to the Premier Mindset by Premier Performance LLC. I'm your host, Trent Mailer, LCSW, licensed clinical therapist and performance coach, and this is episode 40. Most high performers think optimization is only about training harder, grinding longer, or pushing through fatigue. But true performance isn't just physical or mental effort. It's about understanding the signals your body and mind are sending you and aligning with them. Ignoring these signals might not cause immediate problems, but over time, stress, misalignment, and burnout quietly build. Your heart rate variability and circadian rhythm are two of the most powerful underutilized tools to help you perform at your peak. Subtle signs like trouble sleeping, feeling off despite hitting your goals, or struggling to stay consistent. These often indicate that your internal systems are out of sync. High performers frequently push through these signals, thinking willpower alone is enough. But real gains come from working with your biology, not against it. In today's episode, we'll break down what heart rate variability and circadian rhythm actually are, why they matter for energy, focus, and recovery, and how you can start leveraging them to optimize your performance. You'll learn practical strategies to boost resilience, sharpen mental clarity, and sustain high-level output without burning out. Quick note before we dive in, this podcast is for education and performance growth. It's not a replacement for therapy or medical treatment. If there is something you need, make sure you go and get it. You can watch full episodes of video and audio of the podcast on YouTube and Spotify, and we have audio-only versions on Apple Podcasts. Clips and highlights are shared across Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, X, and YouTube, so make sure to follow along and subscribe to get those as they come out, and all the links to the social media accounts are in the show notes, so jump into those communities there. If you've ever felt like your body or mind isn't keeping up with your goals, or you're chasing results but not feeling fully aligned, this episode is for you. Let's get into it. What is heart rate variability? Heart rate variability is the measure of the variation in time between consecutive heartbeats. It indicates how adaptable and resilient your autonomic nervous system is to stress, health, and recovery. We've talked about that nervous system lots of times in the past. For high performers, whether you're elite athletes, executives, or individuals pushing their limits in demanding fields, knowing about heart rate variability provides critical objective data to optimize performance, manage stress, and prevent burnout. For athletes and fitness enthusiasts, heart rate variability is an objective biomarker that indicates daily readiness to perform. When heart rate variability is high, it suggests the body is well recovered and ready for high-intensity training sessions. A performer can push harder knowing their body is prepared to adapt and improve. When heart rate variability is low, it signals accumulated fatigue, overtraining, poor sleep, or an impending illness. In this state, high performers know to prioritize rest, recovery activities like light stretching or walking, or active recovery days rather than pushing themselves into a state of physical overexertion that could lead to injury or even setbacks. High performers in demanding professional fields often operate under constant deadlines and intense psychological pressure, making them susceptible to chronic stress and burnout. So it can kind of work as an objective stress meter. Fitness trackers and apps provide a daily heart rate variability score that acts as a real-time stress meter. I track mine on my Apple Watch every day, so you can track it on many different devices and technology if you want to. A downward trend in heart rate variability can be an early warning sign that work demands are exceeding the body's capacity to cope, which can be a great sign to change things up. Knowing the heart rate variability allows high performers to implement timely stress reduction techniques like dedicated meditation, stepping away from screens, prioritizing sleep, or just taking a mental health break before chronic stress leads to full burnout or mental exhaustion. Rest is key with success. Sleep is crucial for physical and cognitive restoration. Heart rate variability data can also indirectly confirm whether current sleep routines are effective. If you're not bouncing back, your sleep might be the problem. High performers can see the impact of late night meals, alcohol consumption, or interrupted sleep on their morning heart rate variability score. This immediate feedback loop encourages better sleep hygiene habits. I see this on my own score all the time, and it definitely gets thrown off on the weekends because my schedule gets thrown off on the weekends, and I can absolutely see it. Like almost every weekend, my heart rate variability score dips. So it is a really great measurement to track on these things to see how your body's doing, especially to catch yourself if you're starting to get sick and starting to take care of yourself before it gets bad. And it can help us guide lifestyle choices. Heart rate variability can show the subtle impact of lifestyle choices that high performers might otherwise overlook in the pursuit of success. It demonstrates how hydration, nutrition choices, or alcohol intake affect the body's recovery metrics, allowing for data-informed personal optimization rather than relying purely on subjective feelings of fatigue. You have something you can lean on. In short, for high performers, heart rate variability is a powerful feedback mechanism that moves personal management from subjective guesswork of "I feel okay today" to objective data analysis of "my heart rate variability is lower than average, I should prioritize recovery." It allows them to push the limits of their performance while respecting their body's capacity to recover and adapt. I know it's a lot of talk about recovery and rest and all of that, but understanding where your body is at helps us push it more too. Otherwise, we might be pushing it in a time where it needs the break, where it needs the rest, and that's going to break down. Now, what is circadian rhythm? A circadian rhythm is a natural internal 24-hour cycle that regulates physical, mental, and behavioral changes in the body. Essentially, it's your body's internal master clock. This influences when you feel alert, sleepy, hungry, and when critical hormones are released. It is primarily synchronized by light and darkness, but it is also affected by food intake, physical activity, and social environment. For high performers, like athletes and executives, understanding and aligning with their circadian rhythm is essential for optimizing performance, productivity, and overall well-being. Understanding and leveraging circadian rhythms provides high performers with a competitive edge by allowing them to work with their biology rather than against it. It helps us with optimized task timing. High performers can schedule their most demanding analytical or creative tasks during their natural peak alertness windows, which is often mid-morning or early evening for most people, to maximize focus and efficiency. Less demanding tasks or breaks can be reserved for natural energy dips, like the mid-afternoon slump. Physical strength, muscle power, and reaction times often peak in the late afternoon or early evening, coinciding with the peak core body temperature. High performers can schedule high-intensity training or competitions during these times to achieve marginal yet meaningful performance advantages, and this is how we keep sharpening that edge. And this is what we're trying to do here at the Premier Mindset and with Premier Performance, is give you guys the edge with whatever you're doing to just outwork everyone else. And this is how we're doing it, is through objective, measurable strategies that work. Aligned circadian rhythms are crucial for restorative sleep, during which the body releases growth hormones necessary for muscle repair and cellular regeneration. Prioritizing consistent sleep schedules ensures optimal physical and mental recovery, reducing risk and fatigue. A well-aligned circadian rhythm regulates hormone production, including cortisol, the stress hormone. Consistent rhythms help maintain a healthy balance, preventing chronic stress and burnout associated with constantly working against the body's natural clock. Peak cognitive function, memory, and attention are tied to circadian cycles. By respecting their rhythms, high performers ensure they are making critical decisions when their brain is most sharp, rather than during periods of cognitive impairment caused by misalignment or fatigue. For those who travel across time zones for competitions or meetings, understanding circadian entrainment techniques like using strategic light exposure, meal timing, and melatonin if needed helps mitigate jet lag faster, allowing them to perform optimally in new environments. At the end of the day, your body is talking, but are you listening? And this is a big question with a lot of the work we're doing, is are we listening to the signals our body's giving us? This is how heart rate variability and circadian rhythm reveal hidden stress, fatigue, and recovery patterns that high performers miss. In the relentless pursuit of excellence, high performers often push their bodies to absolute limit, relying purely on mental toughness and subjective feelings of fatigue. The inherent danger here is that by the time overt symptoms like injury or burnout appear, significant damage has usually already occurred. The body, however, provides constant subtle feedback through sophisticated physiological metrics with the heart rate variability and the circadian rhythm. These objective biomarkers serve as an early warning system, revealing hidden patterns of stress, fatigue, and recovery that are easily missed until it's too late. The sooner we catch these things, the better. Heart rate variability acts as the autonomic stress barometer. High performers typically have a high capacity to handle daily stress, but they often struggle to objectively measure when that capacity has been exceeded. A high heart rate variability indicates a well-recovered, resilient system capable of handling more work. A low heart rate variability, on the other hand, even if the performer feels fine, is a strong physiological signal of accumulated fatigue, poor sleep quality, or an impending illness. And it is really great to see these things and measure it this way objectively so we don't have to go into the guesswork game. Because one thing that happens a lot with high performers is we get really good at pushing through things, and we start to lose sight of the signals showing us that our body isn't in the place it needs to be to optimize its performance. So having a measurement that you can lean on and look at is very helpful for us to find out, am I in the right spot, or do I need to take care of me right now? High performers tend to miss these signals, and that can cause a lot of problems. A lot of high performers miss this. They might complete a tough workout or a long negotiation and feel energized by that adrenaline, masking the underlying physiological toll. A persistently decreasing heart rate variability trend reveals that the sympathetic, the fight or flight system, is dominant, leading toward exhaustion rather than adaptation, which will break down in time. It's not sustainable. And we want to create sustainable success, not just a flash in the pan. By listening to the heart rate variability data, high performers can adjust their training intensity or take a mandated mental health break before burnout hits. Circadian rhythm is the master planner of energy. High performers often pride themselves on productivity at all hours, ignoring the body's deeply programmed 24-hour cycle. The circadian rhythm dictates when cortisol peaks, the alertness, and when melatonin rises, the sleepiness, optimizing muscle strength, cognitive function, and metabolic processes at different times of the day. What high performers might miss with this is they might push into the night, relying on caffeine and blue light exposure to override their natural sleep signals. This misalignment, known as social jet lag, disrupts recovery hormones and impairs cognitive function on the following day, leading to suboptimal decision-making and increased injury risk. Aligning work schedules, peak physical training, nutrition, and light exposure with their natural circadian rhythm allows high performers to strategically place their most demanding tasks during their biologically optimal windows, maximizing focus, efficiency, and physical output. We are trying to set you up to work with your body, not against it, to maximize what you can put out there in the world and really amplify your gifts that you're out here giving to everybody. We're essentially trying to move from subjective willpower to objective optimization with all of this stuff. Relying solely on willpower and subjective feeling is a recipe for inconsistency and eventual breakdown. Heart rate variability and circadian rhythms provide an objective feedback loop that transforms self-management from guesswork to a data-driven science. By integrating these metrics into their daily routines, high performers gain the ability to identify the early stages of overtraining before it results in injury or performance plateaus, what actually saves us a bunch of time because we don't have to go through the recovery in those long phases with injury. This makes agile, informed adjustments to their schedules based on actual recovery levels, not just arbitrary plans. We're not just doing things because I said I'm doing it. I'm making sure I'm ready to do this thing and my body's in the right spot for it. And it prevents chronic stress and burnout by proactively balancing periods of high output with deliberate, data-indicated recovery. And it gets away out of all of the subjectiveness, even including the excuses we might give ourselves of like, I'm not feeling it today, I need a break. Then you look at the heart rate variability or maybe your circadian rhythm and you're like, oh, I'm actually fine. Then let's push through it and go do the thing. So it takes all of the guesswork out. It takes all of the feelings out. You can just lean on, what is my body doing? And that makes it so much easier to just push forward and trust your body is in the right spot to handle what you're going to give it. Your body is constantly communicating its needs and capacity. The biggest issue is we don't always listen. For high performers seeking sustainable excellence is about learning to listen to these hidden signals, which is the ultimate performance hack. And this is why we're talking about this today. So it is a biofeedback for high achievers, using heart rate variability to hack your day, and how heart rate variability can guide training, work focus, and recovery decisions in real time. For high achievers, every day is strategic operation aimed at peak performance. The crucial variable they often mismanage is the capacity of their own bodies. We just try and get into routines and almost do the same thing or just do what we want to do. By harnessing the heart rate variability as a real-time biofeedback, high achievers can move beyond subjective willpower and employ a data-driven approach to optimize their training, focus, and recovery decisions throughout the day. Heart rate variability acts as a direct line to your autonomic nervous system, signaling exactly how much physiological reserve you have available at any given moment, how much fuel you have left in the tank. This helps us with guiding training intensity. The central challenge for high-achieving athletes is knowing when to push their limits and when to rest to ensure supercompensation, the process where the body adapts and becomes stronger after stress and recovery. Heart rate variability hacks that plan. On go days, when we have high heart rate variability, it is a green light for high-intensity interval training like HIIT workouts or heavy lifts or even demanding practices. The body is primed for adaptation and is ready for high stress, so we can kind of put it to work. On slow days, this is when we have a low heart rate variability. Even if a high-intensity session is on the calendar, this serves as a non-negotiable warning signal. The high achiever uses this biofeedback to pivot immediately to active recovery, like a walk or stretching or light cycling. This prevents the overtraining syndrome that sidelines ambitious individuals and helps us get out of our own ways. It also helps optimizing work focus and cognitive load. Performance isn't just physical, it's heavily cognitive. High achievers need intense focus for decision-making, negotiations, and problem-solving. And this is exactly where heart rate variability can hack our workday. We can schedule peak loads. Heart rate variability typically trends downward during the day as stress accumulates. High achievers can monitor this in real time. When heart rate variability is stable and high, usually mid-morning, they tackle the most cognitively demanding tasks, ensuring maximum efficiency and minimal errors. The midday pivot is a different story. If a high achiever notices their heart rate variability dropping sharply after a stressful meeting or a poor night's sleep, they use this biofeedback as a trigger to step away. Instead of forcing focus, they switch to administrative tasks like emails or short breaks until the metric stabilizes again. And it helps making real-time recovery decisions. Recovery is where growth happens, yet it is often the first thing high achievers sacrifice. Heart rate variability provides accountability for the rest. It does this by offering instantaneous feedback loops. If a high achiever stays up late to finish a presentation or drinks alcohol the night before, their morning heart rate variability score will objectively reflect that physiological strain. This instant consequence reinforces better choices. Heart rate variability monitors can also be used as a real-time guide for breathwork and meditation. During a stressful moment, a high achiever can practice slow, deep breathing, known to increase heart rate variability acutely, while watching their metric rise on the screen, teaching them how to manually control their nervous system state and shift into recovery mode on command, which is kind of a superpower if you think about it. By transforming a hidden physiological signal into actionable data, heart rate variability biofeedback empowers high achievers to stop guessing and start optimizing, ensuring they have fuel in the tank when it truly matters. So now, how do you use heart rate variability personally right now? To start using it as biofeedback, the first and most critical step is to find your personal baseline. You can't rely on a universal magic number because heart rate variability varies widely based on age, genetics, and fitness levels. Think of these general ranges just as a starting map. These are not where you need to be. Your own baseline is going to be unique and different than anyone else's. These are just some ranges to think about so you kind of get an idea to get started as you start to figure out your own pattern. Most adults fall somewhere between 40 and 70 milliseconds with their heart rate variability measure. The goal is to aim for the optimal zone, which is simply a number above your personal average, indicating you are recovered and ready for action. The recovery zone is a number significantly below your personal average, which serves as an objective signal to rest. For example, if your average turns out to be 60 milliseconds, then 75 milliseconds is your go zone, and 40 milliseconds is your rest zone. Establishing a personal baseline is essential for using heart rate variability effectively. General ranges can serve as a starting point, with many adults having a heart rate variability between 40 and 70 milliseconds. The aim is to identify your optimal zone, which is above your personal average, indicating recovery, and if and a recovery zone significantly below your average, signaling a need for rest. To determine this individual baseline, consistent tracking of heart rate variability over 1 to 2 weeks is often recommended. This personalized data then allows for informed decisions to optimize performance and manage recovery. So if you have an Apple Watch, if you have an Oura Ring, any of these things that you can use to track heart rate and different things going on inside the body, it will probably chart heart rate variability as well. So it's good to check that out and see where it's been at, because you might already have that pattern tracked for you. Just go look at it and start understanding where it's at and start trying out different things to see how you can adjust it and change it up as you go through your day. The circadian rhythm advantage. Timing your life for peak performance. Why sleeping, eating, and working in sync with your body clock dramatically boost energy, focus, and creativity. The human body operates on a remarkable, ancient internal timer, the circadian rhythm. This roughly 24-hour cycle orchestrates every facet of our biology: hormone release, metabolism, sleep cycles, and even cellular regeneration, to operate at optimal levels at optimal times of the day. High achievers often mistakenly believe they can override this biological clock through sheer willpower or caffeine. In reality, working against your rhythm is like trying to drive a high-performance car with the brakes slightly engaged. Aligning your schedule with your internal clock isn't just about feeling less tired, it's about unlocking sustained peak performance across every domain of your life. Your brain isn't on at the same capacity all day. The circadian rhythm dictates distinct peaks and troughs in cognitive function. The peak, which is mid-morning, cortisol levels are high, attention is sharp, and short-term memory is optimized. Synchronizing your toughest analytical work, strategic planning, or creative deep work sessions during this window ensures maximum output and efficiency. The trough, which is mid-afternoon, just like a dip, is the well-known afternoon slump. This is a natural biological event. Instead of fighting it with more coffee, high achievers use this time for low-stakes tasks, administrative work, or brief restoration breaks. We don't have to be operating at that optimal level all of the time. We can pick and choose our battles, and we can do certain things when we don't have the energy for other things. Sometimes it's about being more efficient, not just pushing through and doing more. Timing physical activity in sync with the body clock leads to a superior physical performance and reduced injury risk. So you athletes out there, timing this clock up is also going to help you out on the field and help you stay on the field. The optimal window is late afternoon or early evening. Core body temperature peaks at this time, leading to enhanced muscle strength, flexibility, reaction times, and cardiovascular efficiency. Scheduling intense workouts or competitions during this time leverages a natural physiological advantage and continues to sharpen that edge that you're building for yourself, which is really what we need as high performers, because everyone's going to be really good at things that we're working around, that we're competing with. So we need edges. We need little slight advantages. That's what it's all about when you're at this level. This matters because training against the clock, like an intense midnight workout, can interfere with sleep onset, disrupt recovery hormone release, and ultimately hinder adaptation and growth. Sleep is the ultimate recovery tool, and its quality is profoundly tied to circadian alignment. The consistent release of melatonin at night when the rhythm is aligned facilitates deep restorative sleep. This is when muscles repair, cellular cleanup happens, and memory consolidation occurs. A synchronized rhythm ensures high achievers wake up genuinely refreshed with higher heart rate variability readings, as we discussed previously, ready to tackle the day at full capacity rather than starting with a sleep deficit. We don't have to drag ourselves out of bed and just keep pushing through the day. You can optimize the recovery, the rest, so that it is easier to do the work when you're doing the work. We get so caught up on doing the work, we lose sight of the rest and how powerful that is for us. And then another aspect is your meals. Timing your meals matters just as much as what you eat. There's so much out there about what you eat and what diets to follow, but not a whole lot of people talk about scheduling these times. Your metabolism is most efficient during the day when your internal clock is programmed for activity. This is where time-restricted eating can come in. Eating the bulk of calories earlier in the day and closing the eating window in the early evening aligns with the body's digestive rhythms. This improves nutrient absorption, regulates blood sugar, and supports sustained energy levels throughout the working hours. By viewing the circadian rhythm not as a limitation, but as a sophisticated optimization guide, high achievers can strategically time their sleep, nutrition, work, and exercise to dramatically boost their energy, creativity, and resilience. Now let's talk about high performance without burnout. Listening to internal signals, identifying early warning signs of fatigue or stress before they impact performance, using heart rate variability, sleep quality, and rhythm cues to find out when we need to do something different. The hallmark of true high performance is not how hard you can push, but how sustainably you can maintain excellence. Some people can maintain excellence for 5 minutes their entire life. Some people can do it for 5 months their entire life. Some people for 5 years, some for 50. To get to 50 or 5 years, that's a whole nother game. The pervasive hustle culture often ignores the reality of human biology, leading even the most driven individuals toward chronic fatigue, cognitive decline, and inevitable burnout. The key to achieving high performance without burnout lies in tuning into the body's internal signaling system. By monitoring objective metrics like heart rate variability, sleep quality, and circadian rhythm cues, high achievers can identify early warning signs of stress and fatigue before they compromise performance. Heart rate variability is arguably the most sensitive, objective marker of stress and recovery, providing a daily snapshot of your nervous system's capacity to cope. Before you consciously feel overwhelmed, a tracking system like an Apple Watch will register a dip in your morning heart rate variability score. This is your nervous system signaling it's overtaxed, perhaps due to a tough training session yesterday, a stressful meeting, or even poor sleep. Most high performers ignore the subtle shift, pushing through with caffeine or sheer willpower, just telling themselves, I got to do the work either way. And sometimes we do, but sometimes we can do something else and do the work that we can't do right now later. We need to use a consistently low heart rate variability score as an immediate trigger to adjust your day. Opt for active recovery, defer major decisions, and prioritize rest. This proactively manages your physiological capacity so you can do more in the long run. The foundation is self-care. We talked a lot about this on episode 2 if you want to go back to that and check in on all those ideas. Sleep is the primary recovery mechanism, and disruptions here are the fastest path to fatigue. You might track consistent awake time in your sleep metrics or feel groggy despite spending 8 hours in bed. This indicates a lack of deep restorative sleep. So if you're getting about 8 hours of sleep, like you're in bed for 8 hours and you feel just awful waking up most mornings, there's something getting in the way of you getting that deep restorative sleep, and we might need to figure it out. High performers often sacrifice sleep for an extra hour of work, creating a cumulative sleep debt that drastically impacts creativity, focus, and emotional regulation. This happens all of the time. This is probably the thing I see most common with high performers and high achievers, is they sacrifice things that seem little to do more work. And this could be sacrificing exercise, eating, sleeping, rest time, talking to a loved one or a friend, whatever it might be, because we tell ourselves the work we have to do is important and we need to do it. And the work is important. But those things are just as important. They're keeping you up so you can do the work you need to do. We think we save ourselves time by cutting those things out, but in reality, what we're doing is we're losing time because the work you're doing now takes more time and more energy out of you because you're not at an optimal level to perform. And that's going to lead to more frustration and probably more burnout. We also want to monitor sleep metrics, and that's a great thing you can do with Apple Watches or any of these devices that are already tracking heart rate variability. A lot of them track sleep too. You want to track REM sleep, deep sleep duration, consistency of sleep and wake times. Just understand where your body's at and how it's kind of going through that sleep process. Use this data to protect your sleep schedule fiercely, viewing adequate rest not as a luxury, but as a mandatory performance requirement. You're not going to handle things well if you're tired. You're just not. You're vulnerable to emotions. You're vulnerable to impulsive decisions, poor decisions. You're going to react to things in really tough ways. We got to handle things in better ways by setting ourselves up, giving us the armor to deal with it all. And that goes further into circadian rhythm. Ignoring your body clock forces your system into a constant state of internal friction. These are situations a lot of high achievers find themselves in. Highly dependent on afternoon caffeine to overcome that 3 p.m. slump, or feeling exhausted at 10 p.m. but then getting a second wind at midnight. These are signs of usually a misaligned rhythm. Pushing energy peaks and dips leads to chronic cortisol exposure at the wrong times of the day, which impairs recovery and mental clarity. That's why we must align demanding work, intense physical activity, and meal times with your natural circadian peaks. High performers use light exposure, like bright light in the morning, dim lights in the evening, to anchor their rhythm, ensuring they are naturally energized during the day and sleepy at night, because their circadian rhythm is very tied to both meals and the light exposure. Those are the two biggest aspects of circadian rhythm. By integrating these biological signals into their daily strategy, high performers stop guessing and start knowing. Because being a high performer isn't about just figuring things out on the fly. Sometimes you got to be creative, sometimes you got to be flexible, but it's about having a plan and sticking to it even when things get hard. We need to be able to adjust it and be flexible with it, but we can't just abandon it because things feel tough. Recovery is the new grind. Rest beats willpower. Elite performers fail because they ignore their biology and how their heart rate variability and circadian alignment change the game. And most of the time, they don't even think about the impact of it. So we're failing, we're having issues. Maybe sometimes people are beating themselves up instead of just reflecting and thinking back to their situation and their own system and recognizing that the system just isn't fueled the way it needs to be to operate at that level. In high performance circles, there's often a belief that success is purely a function of willpower, the ability to push harder, sleep less, and grind indefinitely. This mindset creates brilliant short-term bursts of output, but leads to catastrophic long-term failure, like injury, mental exhaustion, and burnout, stopping you from even doing the work you're doing anymore. The era of ignoring biology is over. Elite performance in the modern age requires a new understanding. You're going to fall behind if you don't do this stuff. That's just the truth. Rest is not the opposite of work. It is an essential component of the adaptation and growth cycle. The most successful performers understand that recovery is, in fact, the new grind. A big reason why elite performers fail is the willpower trap. Elite performers fail when they operate under the flawed assumption that their mind can indefinitely override their body's fundamental needs. The human body requires stress followed by recovery to adapt and grow stronger. This is a principle called supercompensation. When an elite performer relies solely on willpower to push through fatigue, they enter a state of chronic stress. They borrow energy from tomorrow for today. This approach leads to a rise in adrenaline and cortisol, which can temporarily mask severe underlying fatigue. It also impairs adaptation. The body never gets the signal to build back stronger. It only gets the signal to survive the continuous onslaught. There's no time to rebuild. There's no time to reinforce. It's just keep on getting through. And slowly we just run out of steam. We just don't have anything left. And you may have felt that before, where you just feel like you have nothing left to give. And it almost guarantees breakdown. Eventually the system collapses, often at the most critical juncture of a career or season. And in all honesty, that is a huge tragedy to go through, where you're building this thing up for months or years. You're getting so ready for this opportunity, and because you pushed yourself too far and didn't listen to your body, when that actual opportunity showed up, it collapsed, it failed, it went terribly. It's heartbreaking, and I don't want to see people go through that, because I see how hard people are working for these dreams, for these goals. But again, if it was easy, everyone would do it. We have to listen to the body and take care of the things that aren't easy to take care of. But the more you do it, the easier it gets, just like anything we do. So let's talk about some morning and night routines backed by science, and how aligning those routines with your circadian rhythm can supercharge productivity, mental clarity, and mood. Aligning your daily habits with your body's internal clock, the circadian rhythm, is one of the most powerful hacks for high performance and well-being. By engineering morning and night routines that sync with natural light cycles and hormone rhythms, you can significantly boost energy, improve focus, and stabilize your mood. The goal of these science-backed routines is to send clear signals to your brain that it is time to be alert or time to wind down, optimizing hormone production and sleep quality. The first one is the morning routine, the signal to go. The morning routine should be designed to intentionally introduce bright light and stimulating activities that shut down melatonin production and kickstart cortisol, which is the alertness hormone. Immediately upon waking up, you want to seek bright light out. Get outside for 10 to 30 minutes of sunlight if you can, or use a high lux light therapy lamp indoors if you need to, especially right now in winter. I know the sunlight is hard to get, so sometimes we do need to get it inside, but ideally the sun is best So go outside, don't wear sunglasses, just let the sun get into your eyes, and please do not stare at the sun. That is not good for anybody. And if you can add in a little bit of exercise, that's going to help out too. This is the strongest anchor for your circadian rhythm. It immediately tells your brain it's daytime, stopping that melatonin release and ensuring optimal energy levels later, while also timing that melatonin release up to be 16 hours later, which works perfectly for us sleeping 8 hours a day. Within 30 to 60 minutes of waking up, you want to hydrate and eat some protein. Drink a large glass of water, get that body moving. Our whole body goes into like this dormant mode when we're sleeping, so drinking some water gets a lot of the systems working again. And you want to follow that by a protein-rich breakfast. Hydration after hours of sleep is critical for cognitive function, and protein stabilizes blood sugar, preventing energy spikes and crashes that hurt focus later in the day. So the hydration and eating protein is setting you up for later. Later in the morning, get the body pumping. Engage in some sort of movement, ideally outdoors if possible with that sunlight like we talked about. Physical activity increases the core body temperature and cortisol levels, boosting alertness and metabolism while setting you up for better sleep later that night. You're going to sleep harder if you get that body moving. Mid-morning, tackle deep work. Engage in your most demanding, cognitively intense work tasks at this time. This time naturally aligns with the brain's peak performance window, the highest alertness and memory function, thanks to the rising cortisol levels. So this is the time to get those things done that require the most of your focus. And then the second is the night routine. This is the signal to slow down. The evening routine is about intentionally avoiding daytime signals, like blue light, and initiating activities that promote relaxation and the release of melatonin. 2 to 3 hours before bed, you want to dim lights and block blue light out. Lower household lighting, switch devices to night mode, or wear blue light blocking glasses if you need to. You can even dim the TV screen, all these kind of things. You just want to make it nice and calm lighting wise, almost like it's a cave. Dim light stimulates melatonin production, the hormone that makes you sleepy. Blue light from screens halts that melatonin release, making it harder to fall asleep and reducing sleep quality because that blue light simulates that early morning light that we're looking to get to wake our body up. That's why we have to be careful, and that's why so many people talk about blue light. About 2 hours before bed, you want to stop eating. So finish your last meal or snack because digestion rises core body temperature and diverts energy from the recovery processes. And we don't want the body doing other things when we need it focused on restoring us and recharging us so we're ready to go tomorrow. So make sure you get that done before that 2-hour window so the digestion can happen while you're awake, and when it's time to go to sleep, you can just go to bed. 1 hour before bed, you want to do a wind down ritual. Our body is great with habits and routines. So if you have a ritual that you do at night, it's going to set your body up to start getting sleepy and start knowing what time it is. So engage in calming activities like reading a physical book, meditation, journaling, or even a warm bath or shower. This behavioral signal primes the body for rest. It lowers the heart rate and signals to your nervous system that it's time for sleep. A warm bath temporarily increases body temperature, then the subsequent drop in temperature signals sleep onset. So we can kind of take advantage of these things to just rest and recover the body. And we're going to talk about some common misconceptions and how some small adjustments with heart rate variability can yield big results. Heart rate variability is rapidly moving from a niche metric for elite athletes to an essential tool for anyone seeking to manage stress, optimize health, and enhance performance. It reveals how adaptable and resilient your body is, often providing insights long before you feel stressed or fatigued. Contrary to popular belief, a healthy heart does not beat like a metronome with perfect even spacing between beats. It speeds up and slows down slightly with every breath and environmental change. It is a very sensitive signal. Heart rate variability is the measure of that variation in time between consecutive heartbeats, like we talked about earlier. Think of it as the responsiveness of your nervous system. A high degree of variability means your body is flexible, responsive, and can easily shift gears between activities and rest. A low heart rate variability means your system is rigid and potentially stuck in fight or flight mode. Heart rate variability is regulated by the autonomic nervous system, which acts like the body's internal thermostat, constantly balancing demands. A high heart rate variability is your rest and digest system. That's the parasympathetic. It is working well and signaling recovery and resilience within that nervous system. The low heart rate variability is your fight or flight system, which is sympathetic. It is a dominant signaling stress, fatigue, and illness, and that comes from the nervous system as well. So a couple common misconceptions about heart rate variability, one being a lower heart rate is always better. When in reality, you can have a low resting heart rate, but a low heart rate variability at the same time. This suggests fitness, but a lack of adaptability. These are two separate things. And this is why we got to be careful when we got to look at all the measurements, because you might miss it if you're just looking at one. Because some people look at low resting heart rate as like, I handle stress well, I'm doing good. Where yes, you're in shape. Yes, your body can handle things. But your system, your nervous system, it may be very, very rigid, hence the low heart rate variability as well. The next one is that heart rate variability should be a specific number, such as like 70 milliseconds. But in reality, a heart rate variability is highly individualized. That's why I barely talked about numbers. Like, we can get super deep into numbers, but it's not going to help much because it's going to be personal to you, which is why you have to track your own patterns. An 80-year-old marathon runner might have a baseline of 40 milliseconds, while a 25-year-old couch potato might have a 50 millisecond baseline. The trend relative to your personal average is what matters. A 20% drop from your average is a universal warning sign. So it's less about what is my average, and it's more about what happens to the average throughout my week. That's going to tell you so much more than just whatever your baseline is. The next misconception, you can change your heart rate variability instantly and permanently. Where in reality, while you can temporarily increase your heart rate variability with deep breathing, long-term improvement requires consistently healthy habits like sleep, diet, exercise, and stress management, and doing it consistently every day. So yes, you can increase it, you can make it better, but there's no way to just fix it and never think about it again, because it's constantly telling you where you're at. So you have to keep listening to it and keep checking in with yourself. It's going to be an ongoing process your entire life. But the more you get this figured out, the quicker you get to regulate that system in efficient, fast ways. Small adjustments can yield big results. The power of heart rate variability lies in its ability to provide immediate biofeedback, allowing for targeted adjustments that make a huge difference in performance and well-being. A high achiever tracking their heart rate variability might see a dip one morning. Instead of pushing through an intense workout, they switch to a walk. That small adjustment prevents potential injury or overtraining, allowing for better performance tomorrow. We can also hack in with breath and change some things that way. Practicing slow, measured breathing around 5 to 6 breaths per minute is one of the fastest ways to consciously boost heart rate variability in the moment. This technique quickly shifts the nervous system from a stressed state to a calm state, improving focus and decision-making during pressure points in the day. Another thing you can do with breathing is also breathe out completely. You don't want to do this all the time, but every once in a while in the day, you want to fully exhale all of the air in your lungs and just feel like there's literally nothing left. And then you can start breathing normal again. But that chance to reset and fully breathe out everything can be beneficial to our heart rate variability too. Heart rate variability acts as an objective accountability partner. Small changes like getting consistent sunlight in the morning to anchor your circadian rhythm, cutting off alcohol intake 4 hours before bed, or prioritizing 8 hours of sleep shows up quickly as improved heart rate variability scores. So you can see this stuff in action, and you can actually test things out and see how it's impacting you, see if it works or not. You don't have to do these things for months before you see an impact. You can do it and see the instant impact of it right away. By listening to this hidden language of your heart, you move beyond guesswork and willpower, using science-based data to optimize your health and performance sustainably. Circadian rhythm and creativity. When your brain is sharpest, mapping your natural energy peaks to tackle deep work, problem solving, and innovation. Unlocking peak creativity, problem solving ability, and innovation capacity is not just about working harder, it's about working smarter by timing your cognitive demands with your brain's natural energy peaks. Your circadian rhythm dictates when your brain is optimally primed for specific types of tasks. Aligning your workflow with this internal clock ensures you leverage your natural biological advantages throughout the day. So map out your natural cognitive peaks. While individual rhythms vary slightly, like early birds versus night owls, most people follow a general pattern of cognitive function that can be leveraged for high achievement. We have that first peak, the alertness peak mid-morning. The period of a couple hours after waking is typically when the brain is sharpest, alertness is highest, and focus is most sustained due to rising cortisol levels. So like we talked about, it is best for analytical thinking, deep work, focus, and memory recall. So doing that kind of stuff can be really helpful. We typically get that valley, the energy dip in the mid-afternoon, which is around 1 to 3 p.m. Core temperature of our body dips slightly and a wave of sleep pressure builds up. This is the infamous afternoon slump. This is a perfect spot for low-stakes interactions and administrative work. The stuff that we've been kind of pushing off that seems not super important, it's kind of like organizing the room. It doesn't take all your brain power, it just requires you to do it. This is the best time to put that in. And then we have another peak, which is our creativity peak, which is early evening. This is lesser known, but highly valuable. And it often occurs later in the day when the mind is slightly less inhibited than it was in the morning's sharp focus. The slight mental fuzziness can actually aid divergent thinking and help creativity so you think of things that you wouldn't normally think about. So this is a great time for creative thinking, for divergent problem solving, or even synthesizing ideas, just kind of putting things out there and innovating a little bit. By respecting your body clock, you stop forcing productivity during energy troves, and harness your natural cognitive waves, leading to less mental fatigue, higher quality output, and a more sustainable path to high performance and innovation, which is what we all want. High performance isn't 24/7. Learning to respect your rhythm is important. Working all day is a myth, and the biology behind sustainable success is about taking care of us. The narrative of the grind suggests that top performers are simply those who work from sunrise to midnight, powered by willpower and caffeine. This mindset promotes an unsustainable myth, and it's a myth, that output is directly proportional to hours worked. In reality, elite long-term high performance is not about endless hours, it is about strategic intensity followed by mandatory recovery. The most successful individuals understand that their biology dictates their capacity and they respect their internal rhythm rather than fighting it. In summary, sustainable peak performance requires high achievers to align their efforts with their body's signals, such as heart rate variability and circadian rhythm, rather than solely relying on intense effort. This approach can help optimize energy, focus, and resilience, all while preventing burnout. So I want you guys to pay attention to the circadian rhythm and the heart rate variability to make sure your body's getting what it needs. And I got a couple questions for you guys before we get out of here, but I really wanted to dive into this because I think it's very interesting in general. Like, these things just interest me. And I think it's a huge aspect of elite performance and optimizing our performance that no one really even knows about. So I want you guys to try it out and see if changing those things or paying attention to those signals really starts changing your life, because it might. So a couple questions for you guys to think about. I want you guys to reflect on it, write it down for yourself. Writing it down is always best. And I want you guys to send me those answers. I like seeing them. I like holding you guys accountable to doing that reflection. And it just gives us a chance to help out right off the bat if we need to. So the first question, is your circadian rhythm aligned? So check in with yourself. Are you on a similar pattern of sleep and awakeness every day? Right? Is your system just working on the same pattern? Are you doing things differently literally every day? Do you hit the weekends and everything just falls all over the place? Are you aligned in that circadian rhythm where it's very rhythmic, very just like automatic, and it's just the same pattern kind of continuously? The more similar you can keep your rhythm, the better you're going to do in your day. So I want you to reflect on that honestly. The next question, have you tracked your heart rate variability before? And if not, I want you to check that pattern for a week. So ask yourself if you've actually looked at this. And you might have looked at it like once. It can happen. Maybe we didn't even know what to make of it. But I want you to track it for a week and see where it goes. See which days it's highest, see which days it's lowest. See if you feel a difference on those days. And see if there's anything in your pattern, maybe it's related to your circadian rhythm, that's changing that heart rate variability as you go into, like, say, a weekend, or maybe you go into like an off day or something. So think about that. And then the last question, what throws off your body's system, both the heart rate variability and circadian rhythm? Like, what is your kryptonite? What causes the problem? And there can be a lot of things that do it. Maybe on the weekends you love having a couple drinks with friends, and that knocks off your circadian rhythm and your heart rate variability, and you got to recover for a couple days after that. That can happen. Not a huge deal. We just got to know what throws it off. Once we know what throws it off, we can do things to get it back quicker. The goal here isn't to make sure that these systems never get thrown off. It's just we got to live life, and it means things are going to get thrown off. We just have to be flexible enough to get them back on track again, and the quicker the better. So tracking these things and seeing when it falls off and getting right to work to get it right back on again is exactly what we need to do. It's not about being perfect. It's not about setting it up and never having problems. It's about adjusting and being flexible with it to make sure you're listening to your body when it's telling you how it's feeling. So answer those questions for yourself. Send me the answer. We'll talk about it, see what we can help with. I love hearing from you guys, and we're going to keep building all these things. Resilient minds, premier results. That's what we're doing here at Premier Mindset with Premier Performance. We are trying to give you the information to build the mindset so you guys can create the results in your life. And I'm here to help you guys one-on-one and create those results in your life, your company, your team, whatever you guys are doing. I love doing the work, and I'm doing more of it every day. So reach out and let me know, because I want to get you guys in, and I don't want to get booked up too quickly before I can work with you guys. So let me know what's going on. Recognition is the first step. If you have no idea something is happening, you can't do anything about it. So we need to know what's happening. We need to see these things. We need to build up that awareness. And this is why we're talking about so many of these topics. And this is why this mindset is so important to the performance we're trying to optimize. So share this episode. If you know anybody in your life that you think could benefit from hearing about this, or maybe they're just completely disconnected from their body and could use a little more alignment, send it their way. They might benefit in a really big way. And if it's helpful for you, that's great. We'd love to hear that. And if you could leave us a review about that, that would be even more helpful. These things really help us spread the word and get these things out to people as much as we can, which is our ultimate goal. So leaving reviews is a really helpful thing for us to get. I make it a point to give you actionable tools to find success in your life. So let me know if it's helping. I love staying connected with you all, and I want to hear about it all. I want to hear about the failures, the successes, the disappointments, the heartbreaks, everything in between. So whatever you have to share, if you don't know who to share it with me. I'd love to hear it. And there's a lot of different ways you can reach out to me. You can email me at tmailer@premierperformancereno.com. My last name is spelled Mahler. You can text or call me directly at 775-561-0056. We have the Instagram and the TikTok with the same name for both of those, where you can follow along and interact, which is Premier_Performance_Reno for both of those. We have the Facebook page and the LinkedIn page, the same name on both of those, which is Premier Performance LLC. And then we have the Twitter or the X account, which is at Premier Reno LLC. And finally, our website, which is www.premierperformancereno.com. So check us out, get involved in these communities. We are dropping content literally every day, and we're putting out new podcasts every week, and that's not going to stop. If anything, there's just going to be more things in the future. We're trying to build these communities up of high achievers to help connect you with others and almost create like a networking community just from this alone. Because we want to create support, we want to create opportunities, we want to give you guys a spot to talk with other like-minded individuals, because sometimes high performance is one of the loneliest places to be. Next week, we're going to talk about leading when drained. So we'll keep going with these things. That one's really going to be focused on what do we do when these systems are off. Our heart rate variability scores are low. Our circadian rhythm is off. We're not feeling good. There's a lot of things happening in our life. Maybe we're pulling ourselves through each day. How do we do it? How do we get better at it? How do we successfully navigate that road until we're feeling good again and we're feeling back on top? So we're going to dive deep into that and go into a lot of details of how that can help you guys out in your life right now. Outside of that, I hope you guys have a great week. Enjoy yourself, go have some fun, and don't be afraid to push yourself as well. We need to do both. It's a balance. So go achieve something, go after something, but enjoy yourself along the way. If there's anything I can do to help in any way, feel free to reach out. I love being a resource for you guys, and I love just hearing how things are going. Otherwise, we got our next podcast dropping next Sunday, and I'll talk to you guys then. See you soon.